Poverty is hunger. Poverty is lack of shelter. Poverty is being sick and not being able to see a doctor. Poverty is not having access to school and not knowing how to read. Poverty is not having a job, it's fear for the future, living one day at a time. Poverty is losing a child to illness brought about by unclean weather. Poverty is powerlessness, lack of representation and freedom. By Unknown 2000. We focused on this issue because we have noticed that poverty has increased and gotten worse than before. We decided to also focus on this country because the Miserables book has a lot of characteristics of this issue. In the Miserables in 1815, they were so unfair with the poor people that for only a piece of bread the poor guy was put in jail and he was there like 15 years. They gave him a paper that he couldn't work at any place because he was a criminal.
He was only looking for a way to move on, to have a piece of bread so he can eat. He was a good person and his intentions wasn't bad, but they classified him as a thief. There was a girl that she needed more money to take care of her little kid that was in a place that abused her. At her work, her friends thought that she was stealing, so they fired her. She was so desperate to have money for her and her son that her only way out was selling her body and her hair so her kid could be safe. Poverty was one of the causes of French Revolution because there was a social inequality. There was a financial crisis caused by the costly wars. They give the money to the army of French, and they raise the prices of food so people can't afford it. At the time, 31% of people were poor. It was so much people that they need to live on the streets because there wasn't job for anyone. Right now, there is 14.5% in poverty right now at France.
The definition of poverty in France follows that of the European Union. The poverty line in Europe is 60% of the population's median income and is based on living conditions and employment levels. This means that more than 8 million people in France live on less than 9,054 euros a month. France is one of the poverty-fighting organizations. The Restos du Cœur is one of the largest French organizations that helps with poverty alleviation. Their volunteers distribute thousands of hot meals every day. In fact, in 2015, 1,028.5 million meals were given out throughout France. We made an interview to our French teacher, Marta Vargas, that lived a time at France, and she told us that the poor people is not at the tourist places, so you need to go a little more in the little street so you can see it. There are not a lot of kids, there was more young people, just because Paris is just too little, they can find.
Most of the poor people in France were women. The women with French nationality, 40% were single mothers, while 30% were single women. This novel touches a point that a few people don't want to talk about it, the poverty. This shows national exaltation of the values and people action against the king by protest and fighting for their rights. The poverty is a problem that we can see all around the world. But in this novel, the poverty is reflected by a few characters. If you can notice, the poverty have changed through many years. And we can see this if we compare this problem currently and in 1815. It is an extremely interesting story because it teaches us the values of solidarity, responsibility, and honesty. We see here the people always give us an opportunity for our rights.